Well, good afternoon, survivors. I'm going to speak for a few minutes in two capacities. The first is as the chairman of the board of SAFE, and also somebody who's been to both last year's kickoff summit and this one. And I just think you all have made this summit absolutely great. I thought last year was wonderful. I thought this year is even better. And I sense the hunger to continue on to future years. And that's an easy thing to say, good vibe, good feelings. But when you think about it, the elements in my mind have been, number one, what we've talked about before, this diversity of participants, public, private, American, North American, international. I like all the different accents. You know, my mate's from Australia, the Brits, you know, talking through the nose a bit, and of course the many other accents that we've heard. So it's the participants and part of it. But the second thing I think that's really important is the alignment that I've heard for over the last day and a half. I mean, these public, private, government, national, international, it's so remarkable how the goal of all of us is the same. These transformed economic sectors of the future, transportation, energy, manufacturing, this relentless feeling that it has to be green. We have got to get down the greenhouse gas reductions to leave a better planet to our children and our grandchildren than the one that we live in now. So when you have that diverse groups, alignment on end state, on goal, then the only other ingredient that you need out of that is cooperation, right? And I think what's unique about this summit is the crosstalk, the different conversations that I hear. So if I had a magic wand, I would say, keep talking among yourselves in the next year before you get back to our third summit. Make good things happen. We're all going towards the same goal, and it's this work of all of you outside of this summit that's going to get us there. What was the phrase that we heard from Tom earlier? That that good ideas and innovation grow out of intersections of things. And so that out of that intersection, ideas sparking back and forth, accomplishments, movement towards a common goal. So thanks for everybody for coming, and keep moving it upward and making it even better. So now let me shift to another topic that's dear to my heart, this idea of the Convention on the Law of the Sea and the notable absence from it of the United States. We had a wonderful panel 2 panels ago with Prime Minister Brown, Secretary General Lodge, but I have to tell you that I found it just incredibly frustrating. I worked on the National Security Council staff 1980, 1981 as a junior commander in the Navy. And one of the very first things that we did in that administration was to reject the single negotiating text that had been developed in 7 years of tortuous negotiations since 1973, and sent it back to be renegotiated. And what the United States objected to at that time were 6 provisions of Article 11. That is the article that covers deep seabed mining. That was it. That was what we thought was wrong. All of the rest of it was very much in the interest of the United States, as it was for virtually all the seafaring nations of the world. Thereafter were 14 years of incredibly difficult, complicated negotiations, and all 6 of those provisions to which the United States objected in 1981 were improved to the point that we felt in the United States that it was very advantageous to us as it was to all of the other countries who were previously happy with it, and we were ready to go. So we signed it in 1994, and that was 30 years ago. And we sit here in this signed but not ratified state. Have I been hitting that thing? Oh well. There'll be a pop quiz on the footnotes at the bottom at the end, so look carefully. Now, so there we were, and there we've been for the last 30 years, signed but not ratified, and therefore Americans not participating in things. This idea that somehow among parts of our political society that the treaty was somehow put over on the United States, that this was a ruse to take money away from the United States, which is the only company that could actually pull these things up at that time, supposedly, and give it to other countries who didn't share our values or our interests, somehow carried on. But what's happened in those last 30 years? Well, four big things have changed, I would say. The technology has matured in terms of efficiency, in terms of less environmental impact, and it's spread internationally. And in fact, it's spread out of the United States, and we are in fact lagging right now in our ability to do what can be done by companies from other countries. Number two, we learned that no US company will get into the business of harvesting polymetallic nodules from the seafloor. You have to have an international license issued by the ISA for a company to put in the multi-billions of dollars of investment required to set it up. Number three, we've learned that these metals that are in these polymetallic nodules, we thought they were kind of a good deal, very pure form, maybe better than terrestrial mining, but we've learned they now fit into this concept of combining recycled batteries with fresh feedstock coming from these polymetallic nodules. So you put nodules together with the black mass, and that can form a renewable, recyclable way to build the batteries that we were going to need so much of for this economic future that we see. And then finally, in these last 30 years, this geopolitical competition between China, Russia, and other autocratic countries on the one side, and the United States, our democratic free market allies, friends, and partners on the other side, has grown up. And of course, as we've talked about many times, this has spilled into the economic sphere, where we are very, very much seeking points of leverage, seeking competitive advantage, and seeking to outdo the other side. So all of those developments, those four big developments, in my mind, have made it even more important that the United States ratify this treaty than it was 30 years ago. Time's a-wasting. But it's not too late. But it's not getting better. So let me draw your attention to these two to this slide that we have. Back in 1984, when we signed the treaty, all four of those white areas were assigned to American companies on the expectation that the United States would sign and ratify the Law of the Sea Treaty. Now, here's the latest map that Michael Lodge's organization puts out. Two of those four areas, roughly the size of Rhode Island, containing roughly $1 trillion worth of recoverable polymetallic nodules, have gone, and we are left with those two gray, or those two blue areas in the midst of everybody else's claims, and those are clearly going to be lost by the United States if we do not ratify, join the ISA. And so that's the progress we've made in 30 years in the United States, gone from four big areas down to two that are open to dispute. But it's not too It's not too late, but wouldn't it be a cruel irony if this instinct by those who have stopped U.S. ratification to deny those benefits going to countries that were hostile or unfriendly to the United States, in fact, went exactly that direction by their obstruction over the last 30 years. And that's where we would be if we do not get on with it. But some of us are trying to change that story. And just on Monday, just 2 days ago, we sent a letter to the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Cardin, Senator Risch, the ranking minority member. It's signed by 6 of us who have been working on this for the last couple of years, and we were joined by 340 of our friends, including 16 cabinet-level officers or their deputies, 189 ambassadors, 73 generals, 50 admirals. All of them former government officials, retired officers who've held experience, positions of responsibility in national security matters, and believe, as we do, that it's past time, but not too late, for the Senate to give its advice and consent to this treaty, and for the United States to ratify it, take our place on the Council in the International Seabed Authority. It's very important from not only the economic point of view, but from the environmental point of view. The United States, as Secretary General Lodge said, has been active, looking in the window, pushing notes under the transom, giving our ideas to the International Seabed Authority on these environmental regulations, which are so important to make sure we bring up these nodules responsibly. But that's different from being there in the only permanently assigned seat on the Council, a full member with a vote and a veto. And we need to get on those bodies. Now, we know that the Senate of the United States has a full agenda, which becomes fuller all the time as the clock ticks down. We know that this is an election year when it's hard to do most anything, like pass a budget, say. But we think that we have a chance of pushing this very important, long overdue move by the United States through the Senate. We believe that the United States must do this so that we can join the other seafaring nations to make full use of it and put our weight behind the freedom of navigation provisions, which regulate how we use the world's oceans. And we believe it's extremely important so that we can take advantage in a responsible way of the resources that are on the deep seabed in order to reach that clean economic future across so many important areas that's the subject of this conference and that we all want for future generations. So stay tuned, keep tracking this issue, we're working on it, and help when you can, and wish us luck. Thank you.